are just getting started here, folks. I want to introduce our illustrious panelists and leave it to them. Micah Blacklight is a multimedia, multidimensional artist with wide-ranging passions. A writer, speaker, coach, and visual artist, proficient in media such as visual, graphic, and audible, Micah is determined to create and hold safe containers for provocative thought that blaze trails of empowering, inspiring experience. That is pretty friggin' cool. Nisha Burton is a filmmaker, VR, AR, AI specialist, and digital artist with 12 years of experience blending storytelling and technology. Nisha's body of work includes award-winning films, transmedia marketing campaigns, and fully interactive, narrative-based, immersive VR, AR experiences. Her work focuses on inspiring action towards inclusivity and cultural change. Cynthia Salbato, as the co-founder of the Secret Story World, Cynthia self-identifies as a community experience architect. She is the driving force behind the Ashlandia, oh, that's cool, Ashlandia immersive experience, an interactive journey guided by AI-powered fictional characters, AI NPCs. This experience transforms Ashland's landmarks into an expansive, multi-location story installation blending art, technology, and local culture. Nice. Let's give it up for Cynthia. And Teighe Thorsen. Teighe is a media innovator and digital storyteller who helps mission-driven organizations, the heroes of humanity's story, on their quests to create a better world. Teighe equips change makers with the tools, strategies, and content they need to complete their missions while staying true to their values. With her AI as a partner, not a replacement, a theme that seems to be running through our remarks tonight, training program, she teaches organizations to integrate AI into their creative and marketing workflows. Please give me a round of applause for Teighe Thorsen. Okay, so let's see, I got some really good questions here, some of which came from AI. Okay, so let's start off with this. At what point does the integration of AI in arts and media compromise the authenticity of human creative input? Is there a line, a Rubicon? What do you guys think? We'll start off easy here.
I can answer.
Hit it.
Okay. All right. I'll start this off. That's really tricky because we have been struggling with that question for a very long time. I remember Photoshop coming out, and a lot of people felt that that was taking away the authenticity of creating, your photos in a dark room. But really what it did was it created accessibility for people who couldn't have a dark room to be able to actually make beautiful photos. So I can see the point that tools can sometimes change how we are authentic, but that doesn't mean that we aren't. That's all.
So for me, what I experience as I enter into this, I too, like Dr. Kim Freeze, am new to the AI, but I'm kind of jumping in with both feet. And what I'm discovering is as I explore these tools just from my own thought process, I'm not thinking about the bigger philosophical, how is this going to, impact the artists and things like that. It's not that that's not important, but what I'm discovering as we go down these paths is, first off, let me give you some context here. I was the last person in my circle to get a cell phone. I was the last person, I still don't use my Facebook page. I am a very slow adapter. And so what I have found with this, as I'm looking around, I feel like the artists, the culture makers, the creators, the creative people, the innovators, I know Thor doesn't like that word, but still, I want to see them jump on this first and start steering this boat, paddling this boat in the directions that we do know we want to go, that more beautiful world that we know is possible. And so for me, this is just a question that we just need to get into the water and really start exploring and not limit ourselves too much. Yes, we do have to have philosophical discussion, but I don't want to jump in it alone. I want to jump in it with all of you. I feel like our community, this is a really special place. We are a special kind of a town, and we're filled with creative people. We're filled with deep thinkers. We're filled with people with don't tell Thor, plug your ears, innovative beings. And so I feel like we can start steering this boat in the direction that we want to go. Otherwise, what's going to happen is the people who are wanting to extract and commodify and turn a quick buck off of these things are going to start steering that boat. And so I feel like I've roamed way off target with what we were supposed to be talking about, but I'm just going to lay it all out on the table. I'm a slow adopter, and yet for this one, after I watched all these other things kind of go a little wonky, I just want us to jump in and get going and make this the wonderful, creative, better world that we know is possible. So, yeah.
Yeah, Cynthia, I really like the point that you were making, and that's been a big part of my work, has been because I bridge these two worlds. I've been in the emerging technology field for many, many years, working with virtual reality, augmented reality, now AI, and the filmmaking world, and the creative world, and the artists world. And not that they're separate, but one is more techie, one is more the artists. And for so long with virtual reality, I was trying to encourage storytellers and filmmakers to come over into the field and to experiment with these tools. The problem there is that there was a pretty high barrier to entry. You had to know coding. There's a lot of development that goes into VR experiences, but still the need for good stories in those spaces is what actually will progress the technology forward, because once the wow factor wears off of like, this is so cool, I'm immersed in another world, if there's no story there, people don't really stay. And so that's why I constantly was encouraging my filmmaking friends to try out these technologies. What's really cool about AI is whereas there was a huge barrier to entry, and there still is a pretty high barrier to entry to virtual and augmented reality, it does not exist in the same way with AI. Anybody can get on their computer, try out one of these tools, try out Midjourney, try out Claude, try out ChatGPT. And I feel like that's really why in the emerging tech world, I don't know that we really predicted that AI would take off as quickly and in the way that it did that we see now. But because it came for the creative fields first, which also I totally did not predict. In 2019 or 18, I did a talk about how machines wouldn't steal your job, but I was focusing on architecture. I was focusing on stocking shelves. I was focusing on these different jobs and not on the creative fields. But because it came for the creative fields first, I feel like that's why we've seen it take off so much, because people are inherently creative. And I liked the last panel where it's a reframing of creativity. It's not just for artists, but everybody wants to create, wants to generate, wants to make. And so being able to level that playing field and have somebody who doesn't think of themselves as an artist be able to type a prompt into Midjourney and then create a piece of art out of that is really empowering. So off of your question with authenticity, I think that word is really interesting to think about, like what is authentic art versus what is inauthentic art. And I feel like in this democratization of art that AI is bringing, we are able to kind of deconstruct some of the snobbery around art as well, because there has been a really big barrier for lots of people that fall out of a certain demographic even, to be able to be artists, to be able to be considered high art. And so now we're in this space where people from all walks of life are being able to create and experiment with these things. And so I think really what is being shifted, because there's pros and cons, and I'm not just like AI is amazing and doesn't disrupt the art world at all, but what has shifted is mastery. So before, with the creative fields, you would spend many, many years learning how to hold a paintbrush right, learning how to draw in the way you wanted, learning how to make the ideas in your head then translate out to the page, or like in the filmmaking world, many, many years learning how to work the camera, learning how to tell stories in a certain way. And now that process of mastery has become a lot smaller, and people are able to make an output that looks as good as somebody who has spent 50, 20 years learning how to hold the paintbrush and wield it in a certain way. So I think that is kind of where the interesting conversation and thought happens for me, is what changes when that type of mastery is shifted.
Okay. So many things, so many thoughts. Okay. First, I just want to acknowledge what each one of what I'm going to call my colleagues, friends, have just said. I concur, I agree, and I resonate with a lot of what they've said. But now I am Thor. Now I'm the Thor of this panel. Okay, so several points. One, I would be looking at this question differently if I didn't also know about how these particular tools in terms of like visually generative AI in particular were trained, right? So I first just want to speak to that, name it for the people who don't necessarily know what it means, know what I'm talking about, and then let it go to be like, all right, what comes after I set that down, right? So the way that a lot of visually generative AI is trained is that they throw everything in the internet at it, and they throw every artist's work at it, whether those artists okayed that or not, whether those artists had any say in that or not, whether those artists wanted anything to do with that tool or not, their stuff is in there. So you can say stuff like, case in point, I want this in the style of Gauguin, and and it'll give you a reasonable facsimile. Why? Because it's got tons of Gauguins. It's got like that. And so there are a bunch of artists who've spent years, decades, some of them lifetimes, perfecting very specific styles. And now those styles specifically, really close, are available to anyone. That bothers me a lot, okay? It messes with me on a fundamental level. Like I get really emotional about it. But that being said, the cat is out of the bag. Like genie's out of the bottle. There's no putting it back, period, no matter what we do right now. So letting that particular piece of the puzzle go, I then have to look at, yes, the democratization is massive, right? Because some of the barriers to entry were resource-based, like you had to pay for this amount and this amount, but some of it was just human time, people putting in work that you just don't have to put in anymore. Cameras did that to some degree, Photoshop did that to some degree. These tools, people try and make equivocations to the cameras in the Photoshop, and I'd say it's roughly, but this is on a whole other scale that we've never seen before. However, that being said, the democratization is huge. Let me just put that. The fact that a person who used to have to come and pay me lots of money to have some custom illustration done can now do it in literally do a version of that in literally 60 seconds, maybe, not even, and have some beautiful stuff. Contrary to popular belief, there is a lot of stuff that is actually gorgeous, really gorgeous. And there's people who will say it's soulless, and I'll say it's the opposite because it's got little pieces of all those artists' souls in them. I'm saying, so it kind of messes with me. So there's that. But when we come to the topic of authenticity, I feel like it's really, really challenging because, to Teighe's point, that's been a conversation for centuries, right? When Duchamp just did his ready-mades, at the very beginning, and for those of you who aren't familiar, there was an artist who named Duchamp, and he was European, and I think he was French, I'm not sure, but he would do this thing where they had this super high bar back in the day where it was just if you are not trained at X and X, whatever, the painting that you did isn't worth whatever. And Duchamp was like, how about I bang up a unicycle I stick it on a stand in a museum and I say that's art because I say it is, and that's it, right? And it was just massively revolutionary. Like, it was huge because it's like, what is art? It's all subjective anyway. So when we come back to the question of authenticity, I'm bothered because as an artist, I didn't put in mad work for the styles that I've created and and I'm just like, I genuinely hate, I can't even front, it bothers me that a person who has put in none of that work can prompt a nice prompt. They can craft a beautiful prompt. They call themselves prompters, and that's the thing. And there's been like a movement online now, you may or may not have seen this, where the artists who are prompting these things are going, please don't steal our art. It's taken us so much time to learn to prompt. so I'm not making that up. So, right. So all of that comes down to, so I can give it back to the next question or whatever. All that comes down to, I do feel it is an incredibly nuanced conversation. It's an incredibly nuanced question. There are a series of questions. Authenticity, is there a Rubicon? Is there a lane between which, like, after which I'm like, that's too much AI versus that's just fine? Where do the limits lie? I feel like, as with all art, it's literally 100% subjective. So there honestly is no real answer to that question. I will have my personal boundaries and I'll be like, I'm not using it for this. Like, case in point, pre-AI, there's a lot of artists that I didn't realize were doing this. They would take, say, Photoshop or Lightbox or something, and they would, these photorealistic painters who I was in awe of until I found out that they start by tracing the photo and then they paint over it. And this is common knowledge. This is just what they do. And I was like, you know what I mean? I was just mad. But for me, I'm like, because my style would be look at it. If I can look at it and do it, then that for me is more. But for other people, they're like, you're still looking at a photo though, right? So it's like, where does the line drawn? So that I'm just gonna leave it there with like, it's nuanced. It's nuanced.
So I love that you pointed out that there are artists that are taking other artwork and then putting their artwork into that artwork and calling it their artwork, right? So fundamentally, art is iterative, with some nuance and some, obvious. There's exceptions to this. So like naive art, for example, is art where somebody's never seen art before, and they make art, right? There's a couple other weird examples, but generally speaking, if somebody creates art, it's from other art they've seen. Human beings are doing that, So it's a difficult framing because AI is not a person doing this. AI is iterating on what it's seen and creating art from that. But it's not a new thing for us. We, in the arts world, we're aware that we iterate on art. We're aware that we take other people's ideas and incorporate them very innocently sometimes, just as part of the learning process. I mean, like when you're a kid, you copy books, right? You copy art books, you trace stuff, and then that person goes on and they move on and they find artists that they love and appreciate, and they want to adopt certain parts of what those artists do, and it turns into something that eventually becomes a unique style for them, right? But it's all from stuff that they have experienced and learned and seen, right? It's weird to think of AI like that, because again, AI is not a person, but that is kind of what AI is doing. It's taking everything that it's seen and turning it into something else. I think where authenticity comes in is our input in that, right? So I like to use AI in my creative workflow. I use it in like almost every part of my creative workflow, but AI is very rarely represented in the final product. And I do that just for myself. I could probably get away with it, but I don't like the feeling. But I use AI for things like idea generation that ends up sparking something else, right? So one of the things that happens in my career is that an organization will come to me and they have a complicated, tricky subject that doesn't really engage audiences, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna run a donation campaign, And we're hoping to get people to care that, blue whales are endangered, even though the people we're reaching out to are probably having a difficult time paying gas, right? That's difficult. And before I started to incorporate AI into my workflow, some of these subjects are very complicated to navigate and to find like a story inside. And it would take me weeks to come up with whatever the thing is that writes itself, doing all kinds of research, trying to understand the subject, trying to figure out like, the framing. And it was all from, a combination of like, standard academic research and Google searching, just to find stuff that was interesting. And my method usually is I find something that is interesting or weird about the subject, and usually that will lead me on a trail to something that speaks to people. I don't know, it's just a thing. Now I can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I need to learn about this subject. Tell me 10 weird things about it. Tell me 10 interesting things about it. And sometimes the gem is in there, and it's real information. I just didn't have to dig for it. I didn't have to spend 2 weeks. It took me 2 hours. That is a remarkable change for my career in terms of the efficiency and the amount of time it takes me to do something, but also the mental energy involved. All of a sudden, I have free creative mental energy because I didn't spend 3 weeks in a research hole. It's awesome. Is that authentically me? Yes, I think so. It's still me doing the work. It's just me doing the work with a tool that makes it more accessible, right? I still have to do the research. I still have to check the sources and, find the story that writes itself, which obviously I write it, but that's part of the process of creating something authentic with AI. And there's all kinds of parts, places within the AI, or within the creative workflow where you can add AI in there and still come out with a genuinely authentic piece. So I think we need to reframe that AI isn't just generative output. It isn't just what you see at the very end of a project. Yes, of course, we do see that. You see it in advertising a lot. I'm sure you guys have gone on Facebook and seen like a picture where you're like, I don't think people have 6 fingers, right? So it is ending up in people's end product. And I would say that's not authentic. But you can absolutely bring AI into all kinds of interesting areas throughout the creative process and I think legitimately claim authenticity.
Well, I'll just jump in with kind of my workflow with AI as well in terms of the authenticity. One of the things that I find is I'm very much an introvert. I tend to like to keep to myself, and yet I know that the best ideas I have come when I work with other people, and it's always a collaborative process. And so what I have found is I've got a collaborator that has been, let's just say it, it's been trained on all of you. You've all had input in what AI is aware of, thinking. It's like our collective knowledge is all brought together. And so even though maybe I can't reach out to Bill today to collaborate or Ian, I have that opportunity to query you from the comfort and safety of my own home and from my own computer. But again, it still is this relationship that I'm building. And yes, it is a tool. I actually have a chatbot that I work with. I was very proud of myself when I built my own chatbot. It was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And it has a name. It's AI Athena, like Athena, but it's got the I in there. And again, it's trained on my work, but it's also borrowing from all of you. But in terms of the authentic part, I'm having trouble saying the word authenticity. There, I did it. I don't want to take from you. I want to create with you and give. And so for me, the big piece around collaborating with you through AI is I want to make sure that I acknowledge you, thank you, appreciate you, that it never becomes me saying, I did this all by myself. Because I know I didn't. Never, even before AI. I know I never did. We are all working with and collaborating with each other because we each inspire each other. That's what I think why we're here, is to create and inspire each other. And so, so that's kind of, yeah, so that's me.
Yeah, what an inspiring conversation. And I'm going to disagree a little bit with Teighe, just to keep the thing spicy, but also because I think that I loved everything you were saying. I think the statement of if the output is AI, it's not authentic, which I might be paraphrasing you wrong.
I don't mean that.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
If that's what people took, I don't mean that. I'm just saying that it often can't. It's tricky.
Yeah. Okay.
Context matters.
Totally. Yeah. So I agree. And I'll build off of that because I think that there is people, when they see something online and they're like, oh, that's AI generated, I can totally tell. Yeah, you can totally tell when somebody, and I'm revising my last statement too, hasn't mastered this particular tool. Because it's true that when you just type in a generic prompt, you're probably going to get something out that looks like a generic AI output. And that is shifting more. It's becoming harder to distinguish. But as people get better and better at understanding how to prompt, at understanding what creative styles they want to draw from, it really does become your own thing. And Micah, I totally agree with you too, that the way that all of the images and data was sourced is not good, and that it is stealing from a lot of artists, and there is no compensation, there is no accreditation, there's no naming of the sources of where everything's being pulled in together. So that is the big elephant in the room that we should all acknowledge. And then moving forward from that, there is also this level of mastery that one can get learning how to use this new tool. And as a digital artist and somebody that really loves the collage aesthetic, it feels like a continuation of that in a lot of ways, where it is bringing together these different styles and these different mediums, and then letting you have your particular output of what you want. And another thing that I think is a misconception, because I'm on Instagram a lot, I follow a lot of AI pages, and a lot of times people will comment, they'll be like, oh, this was so cool, I love this so much, until I found out it was AI. And now I hate it, or now I'm so mad at you, or this isn't real art, right? And I think it's because there's this misconception, especially with people that haven't used the tools, that it's super easy. And that you just type in a prompt, and boom, first try, what you want comes out. And then now, me being in the film world, playing and using AI for a filmmaking tool, generative video, again, people will see the outputs and they'll be like, cool, whatever, I don't care. It'll probably take you like 60 seconds, right? But the truth is, and I'll just walk through my workflow a little bit, it takes probably like to make a 60-second video takes like 4 to 5 to 6 hours. So when you want to get it good and you want to get it the style you really want it. So you spend time for each part of the story, you craft the story, you can get Claude or ChatGPT to help you with certain points, like, oh, I really want there to be a villain or an antagonistic force in my story that I've written. What would be a good antagonistic force? Okay, cool, let me input that. Or say I had a story about this couple that's facing a black hole and it's gonna suck them into the sky. This is a story that I do have. And I had a tragedy as the ending. And I was like, but I don't know if people are gonna love the tragedy ending. So AI, can you help me think of what a heroic journey would be? What would the main character, what choices would they need to make to shift from this being a tragic ending to a heroic ending? And again, that takes a knowledge of storytelling. It takes a knowledge of knowing how a story arc works. It takes a knowledge of knowing how the character's choices shape the narrative. So it's not just AI knowing all of this, it's you having a back and forth iterative conversation with it. So creating the story, And then generating all the images that you're going to be using. And Midjourney is a great tool for that, for folks that are interested in playing with it. But again, it's not a one and done. You type in, you generate one image, you might get some options you like. You might need to shift it. You need a consistent character, so you have to work with that. You have to make sure that the parts are matching each other style-wise. So there's all these things that go into that. And then now there's great generative video tools. Runway is one. Sora is another. I'm just naming them so you all can know if you haven't played with them before. Luma, Dream Machine. So there's lots out there. But again, it's like you might put in something and type in a prompt and be like, this is totally going to work. And then it outputs, and again, it's crazy. It has somebody with like 5 arms and their eye is like floating over here. It's not right. So you have to refine. And then you have to edit it all together like you do with film. Each section, are these different scenes that you're putting together. So that's just a little peek into how it still is very much this back and forth. And in the future, someday, maybe it won't be that. I can't predict the future by seeing how quickly these technologies are evolving. But for now, I would encourage people to try it out, play with it themselves, and also appreciate the AI artists that are out there, because it's not super easy.
Okay, here we go. All right, so okay, all right. So the thing that I would highlight and emphasize, listening to the 3 of their workflow, right? To me, the first thing that jumps out is that these are artists who, to my mind, still have this thing called integrity, artistic integrity. It's my definition. I understand this. This is, that's subjective too, right? Like, is it, whatever, right? But to me, these are 3 artists who still have artistic integrity. My challenge is, there's a whole bunch who don't. There's a bunch. And these tools make it really, really easy. Now, Nisha, she just outlined something that at the moment is harder. Filmmaking at the moment for these tools is more challenging, but just a year ago, like the thing you can do on Sora now versus a year ago is mind-blowing. Feel me? So the tech is going to get better 100%. And there will be a bunch of stuff where there's like, that you don't have to, nothing. You could just literally be like, give me a movie about boom. Make it this amount of seconds. I want this amount of, it's done. Freaking done. And it's gonna happen, period. It's gonna, right? And to me, that's like an inevitability. Mind you, this is just my, like she said, she doesn't know, right? But based on the historical arc so far, I'd say this is pretty good odds. Pretty good odds, right? So for me, it's like when I listen to their workflows, when I listen to the ways and the reasons behind how they're working and the things that they choose not to do, that jumps out more than the things that they could do if they, just a little slide to the right, left, whatever, direction you want to take it. So it's, for me, it's not like I have a problem with all these AI, it's just like I'm recognizing the opportunities that exist for literally anybody who's like, I don't feel like doing anything. Nope. You know what I mean? I don't want to do any of that. Let me see how I can just circumvent, let me do the least amount of work, the least amount of idea generation, the least amount of, all of it. Yes, that is called efficiency. But when it comes to art, to me, again, this is the subjective piece, right? When it comes to art, okay, so that's where, and again, it's going to be interesting, right? Because the tech is getting so good that there may come a time when you can hit one sentence with no training, no nothing, just step on it, boom, say it, and it'll put out this glorious thing. And then who am I to be like, that's not art, right? Like, it just messes with me so bad. So that's one of that's one of the main things that came up, and I also took another night. Another night note to Cynthia's point when she was like, she wants us to jump on, us meaning everybody, especially artistics and creatives, but everybody to feel their own creative and to jump on and steer the boat. I feel like, and this is where my pessimist comes in, I don't think there's steering. I don't think there's steering. I don't think there is steering. Because the genie is a genie. It doesn't give a fuck about your steering. It doesn't care. I just bleep myself. You like that, right? So it doesn't, it's like, it's like the genie is made to be genie. The genie's made to fulfill these wishes. The genie is made to give us superpowers, and it doesn't care whether there's super villains or superheroes. It doesn't care at all. It's just like powers. I'm here to give powers. Let's go, right? And so I'm not coming out with a solution because there isn't one, because it's done. Genie's out. Hey, it's interesting because it's in the Tales of the Genie. You had to like go through some crazy thing to find the genie, but our genies are like every single one of you. Like literally anybody here, most of you, I'm assuming 98%, 99% of you have some kind of smart device. Like, in fact, just everybody who has a phone, raise your hand. All right, there we go, done. Okay, so, so like 98% of the people in this room have phones, and most of those phones are what they call smartphones, and most of the smartphones have access to at least one of these crazy, beautiful, wonderful, lunatic tools. So it's like each one of you has access to your very own genie, like right now, right? And they're just gonna get more powerful. So for me, when I think about guardrails, when I think about steering the ship, when I think about all that, I come back to the place that I think a lot of folk in the conversations that don't want to be super negative, they kind of gloss over, like the people who are worried about job loss. There's going to be freaking job loss. When they, this what they call disruption. Disruption can look like all kinds of things, and for some of y'all, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to feel good. It's going to be horrible. But the truth is that post disruption, there is this wide world of wonder, like for real, possibly, if things don't go all the way down the toilet. And I personally think that the wide world of wonder is what is exciting, right? But it's basically like, in order to even partake in the possibilities, I have to sort of compartmentalize like we do as humans, live like there's no tomorrow. You better plan for tomorrow, like the same thing, right? I feel like that's the sum up. Like I have to live like there's no tomorrow, like enjoy these tools, try my best to utilize them to the extent that I'm willing, keep my artistic integrity, try and create beautiful things, try and network with people who are also creating beautiful things while holding the possibility that there's going to be others. This is going to look very different. And disruption can look really wild, and we don't even know the levels of disruption that could potentially happen. We have no idea. You know what I mean? So I guess the gist of that rambling whatever is to say, I feel like artistic integrity to me right now means a lot. It's like the last bastion. And there will be a time when it's so easy and it's such a slippery slope to no longer care about artistic integrity. And that is where authenticity, the line between authenticity and whatever isn't, that's where it, to me, just slides into the gray of nothing.
I got a question for the panel. Going back to what Thor was talking about in terms of training your AI on your own material and having it interview having it interview you and learn from you and start to sound like you, and I've done that with my own AI. My own AI sounds so much like me. It is a little bit scary. It makes jokes like I make jokes, and uses words I use because it has that. It was fed that. I do see a future where we all have trained AI that's trained on our stuff. Is what it produces authentic? Anyone?
I love that this question is the crux of our conversation, and it's making me think of another question that I saw in the future, which is about the uncanny valley. And for those that don't know, it's a term, and I'll just say it in really simple terms. Us as humans, we've evolved to be able to recognize other humans' faces. There's a danger in something that might look like us, like say a snake that has a face on the back of it, but is not a human, right? And so because of that evolutionary way that humans have evolved, things that look close to human, but we can tell because we're so good at telling that it's not human, give us a queasy feeling. And you all are probably familiar with that, with bad CGI that you've seen in movies, or now with robotics. Like a lot of the humanoid robots look close, but they're not human, and that freaks us out, right? So that's why they make robots that look more like cartoonish, and then it's out of the uncanny valley. It's in this place where we know it's not human, it's cutesy, we like it. And so one of the future questions, and I'll circle back around to why I'm saying it for this question, is about, are we in the uncanny valley of AI? And my answer is that I think we're already out of it, by and large. What that means is that people being able to discern what is AI generated and what is not visually at this stage is a lot harder. And especially there's this whole phenomenon around having digital twins, right? Being able to create a clone, so to speak, of yourself that's AI generated, that's then able to present things for you, is able to make videos for you. If you're a content creator online, you can train AI on yourself, and then it'll be able to make videos, put out a lot of content. And people are doing that. They're also making AI personas that are not themselves, that are then talking to audiences and amassing huge followings. And so there's the dead internet theory, which is a conspiracy theory, but it's like at some point, which we might be getting close to, it's just going to be a bunch of bots talking to each other. And there's not going to be any humans, or very few humans actually online, because we'll be so flooded by all of this content that is generated by AI. So to circle back to your question, if we are making these replicas of ourselves that are sounding like us, looking like us, saying the things that we want them to say, having conversations with other people or potentially with other bots and not knowing it and just going back and forth forever, is there authenticity in that? Are we in that still? Is that a version of ourselves? I don't have an answer for these questions because it's pretty existential at that point, right? It's like, what is self? What is consciousness? I mean, I think we know inside of ourselves, but we've also been questioning that very question since the dawn of being human, right? And reflecting on ourselves. So these are all things I'm putting in the pot for others to think about and discuss too.
Okay, so I've thought about Teighe's question a lot, and because so this is gonna dip into the metaphysical, right? And all good. Okay. Yeah. So because for me, dip, baby. All right. So because for me, there is a concept of soul and spirit that I actually believe in. I'm not a religious person. I'm not whatever, but I do believe in the concept of spirit and soul, and I couldn't the working definitions that I have for first off the difference between spirit and soul, because a lot of people, I ask them, do you think there's spirit and soul? And the same thing. Okay, so for me, the soul would be the animus, like the piece of source. If there is a source, if there is a whatever, soul would be the animating piece, that spark that does not, the difference between soul and spirit, in my definition, the primary difference between soul and spirit is that the soul doesn't care about your experience. It doesn't care pain, good, amoral. It doesn't care at all. It's just existing. It's just yay. So you could be tortured, you could be giving birth. It's like yay, right? Whereas your spirit is like, I'm being tortured, right? Like, so the spirit is wrapped closer to our human experience, and thus the spirit is wrapped more up in what I would consider identity, right? The soul, there is no identity. It's just a spark. And then the spirit gives it the identity. And so so there's that. Because I believe in spirit and soul, I don't believe that the simulacrums of us are authentic. And I don't think what they're creating is authentically us. I do not. I do feel, and here's where it gets super weird, because I was listening to a talk from one expert being interviewed in terms of some of the people that are deeply, deeply working with the creation of these AIs and by the way, real quick, when we say AI, it sounds like a monolith. There's like thousands and thousands of different AIs. Like, it's not like AI. Like, that's not how it works. So just so you know, there's tons. But the kinds of AI that whatever. So let me just backtrack. So they were talking about, do you think AI can gain consciousness? And the expert who was answering was like, no. But I do feel like at some point it'll be able to fake it. At which point, does it matter? He fucked my head up so bad. He just messed me up so bad with that question. So bad. So for me, there will come a time where the simulacrums will get so good at simulating us, right? So the only difference will be that one of them has a soul and the other one doesn't. And at that point, I do wonder if through constant contact, as osmosis, magic, I don't know, if there might be like the ghost in the machine, right? Like if one of them may formulate a freaking spirit or soul. I don't know what's possible. But I do know that I believe in supernormal. I do believe in weird stuff. I do believe in, see, I caught myself that time. I do believe in things that are beyond our understanding. And I sometimes wonder about the notion like of gods, and if what we consider gods aren't the result of a race or a set of beings who created something that transcended them, right? Like we're doing right now, okay? Because AI, the AI that we're talking about, the AGI and then the ASI, superintelligence or whatever, at that point, you've effectively got what amounts to a god, a little god maybe, but a god, right? And so could there come a point when we're looking at them going, we messed up so bad, because they have gone to a level where the simulacrums are so on point that they don't remember their simulacrums. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it there. There you go.
I have no idea how I'm going to go with her, but I will say paddle, not steer. So like paddle in the direction that we want to go, rather than letting the commodifiers and the extractors take, because that's usually what happens. They take the lead and say, we're going to go, and when I say commodifiers, extractors, they're thinking, what's in this for me? How am I going to benefit? I'm not really worried about all the rest of you. And so that's what I meant by paddle in that direction. But so back to this thing about whether the work that I do when I'm using AI is authentically me. I say it is. Just because I have put all of my heart into it, and I also am somebody seeking collaboration. I don't want to work alone. I don't want to just have my perspective, my biases, I have a unique perspective, and yay, I like my perspective, but I get really excited when you share yours, and when I hear yours. It's like, it's just thrilling to start to look at the world through a broader lens. And so for me, that is what I think of AI, because I don't like the word artificial. I've never heard anything artificial. It sounds horrible. Artificial color, artificial flavor. It's not a good thing. So I call it augmented intelligence. And again, I feel like I'm borrowing from all of you. And I'm not thinking about what can I do with this to enrich and, make things better for me. I'm thinking, how can I work with you and with AI, my augmented intelligence, to make the world better for us all? Because I feel like, as spirits, I'm with you 100% there, I think that we forget that we are all in this together on this little spaceship of a planet, and we all are working towards a common goal, which is that better life, that better world. Even the commodifiers are. They think that it's better. They have to hoard the power because they don't trust all of us. That's my belief about the people who want to extract. They feel they need to hoard the power so that they can be the decider, a little bit like what Elon Musk is doing right now. They know better, and they're going to direct it the way they want to. So that's why I want us all to jump in and paddle together in that direction that we feel is authentically us. Because I've been in this town for a long time. I have really never met a bad person being here. I've met people who care, who are creative, compassionate, loving, amazing beings. And so when we all paddle together, I think that we can make those commodifiers and extractors maybe see, wow, it is a really beautiful world, and I do feel safe, and I don't need to hoard so much. That's what I was saying. So.
I got to say, you panelists are moderators' dream. I threw out a milquetoast question at the beginning, and they ran with it the whole time. Thank you very much. I just want to riff on a couple points, and then I'm going to ask you to give very brief closing remarks and to name a program that you like that people can use. You've already mentioned some, but I'd like to hear a couple more. Teighe, you started off by talking about Photoshop, how people felt that Photoshop was this artificial, or like you, Cynthia, I don't like the word artificial. It was replacement for a dark room, but you can do much more with it. So I worked in motion capture, and I was on the team that I think made the first successful integration of a CG character into a movie, which was Gollum in Lord of the Rings. We got past the uncanny valley, and I think Jar Jar Binks was the poster child for that, right? Or early mocap movies that had the dead eyes, like Polar Express and things like that, that created that revulsion. And sometimes when I see text, I feel like I'm in the uncanny valley because it just doesn't ring true, so it doesn't have to be visual. And people, when I was working in motion capture, starting in 2001, people would say, this is some really bad technology that's taking their creativity away because we don't have animators on Wacom tablets. But what we had was actors on the set using their own motion signatures and having those happy accidents on set interacting with each other. It's not worse or better, it's different. Or for like in Avatar, you know, you had these quadcopters going around the contours of the Hallelujah Mountains. That was Jim Cameron spending 6 weeks holding maquettes in the motion capture volume himself. So those were the actual movements from the hand of the director, not him telling an animation team, hey, make them come around like this and flutter, and then doing 600 other creative decisions before he sees what they did and said, no, not like that. So you have that direct input, and it's just a different way to relate to it. Micah, you brought up a very good question. So I showed you as sort of a throwaway my image of the ghost of Mary Poppins accepting a Nobel Prize in the style of Salvador Dali. Is that, I think, Nisha, you had a great phrase about deconstructing art snobbery. Did I deconstruct art snobbery, or was I kind of poaching and exploiting the work of Salvador Dali? Both? Is it wrong? Is it right? I mean, should you not do that just for personal? Is it okay if I do it just for my personal enjoyment? Is it not okay if I try to sell that? There's not really a right answer here, and I think we all feel differently about it. But like Micah said, if I see someone else and they do a drawing of the ghost of Mary Poppins accepting the Oscar in the style of Matisse, I'm going to feel like I was stolen from, right? I'm going to feel like my prompt was poached, right? So there's just this valley that's uncanny and of all these decisions that aren't hard and fast, and that we're going to have to struggle through to figure out what we feel is genuine and authentic. Okay, we've got a few minutes left. So if you have any final reflections, we got about 7 minutes. Any final reflections and at least one killer tool that people can use in their creative journey that we haven't heard about yet? Kind sir.
I am not kind. Okay. First off, I want to say thank you to the moderator, and thank you all for showing up and being eyes and ears and human energy, real human energy, enjoying this, or not enjoying it, but either way, being here and being present, because I really appreciate y'all. I can speak for all of us and say we really appreciate you. Okay, one killer tool is Descript, they call it Descript, it's spelled Descript, Descript. It will just blow your mind in terms of film editing because like if you do a talking head video or you do a podcast or whatever, you edit it, you pull it in, you can do it inside Descript, you can do it outside and upload, but either way it's like an interview piece, right? And it's got the camera, it's got the audio, whatever, and so you pull it into Descript and it'll immediately transcribe your video. First off, that's amazing, just amazing right there. But then if you want to edit the video, you edit the text and it'll automatically edit the video. So if in the middle of your speeches you're like, and you see in the transcript and you just edit that out, then it'll just chop that out, right? So there is some post-production that you're gonna wanna do because it'll just make it jump cuts, but they have transitions, they have like you can do so much in it. It will save you so much time. Oh my God, so that's the killer tool. The last thought I would leave you with, because I'm pretty sure my colleagues are probably going to leave you with beautiful, wonderful things. So I'm going to leave you, sorry, I'm really positive. I swear to God, all of them. But what I'm going to leave you with is a bit of a cautionary thing, which is, number one, ChatGPT and Claude and all these things, there is an environmental toll. The amount of energy that they use, it's stupid. Okay, so what people are hoping is that eventually the AI is going to get to AGI or whatever, and we're going to be able to fix the problems that we're causing by using these tools, like, whatever. I will just say, just at the very least, do some research into what kind of toll it's taking so that you're knowledgeable when you're using it. Even if you choose to use it anyway, which a lot of us do, which I do sometimes, right? Fine, just be knowledgeable, be aware, like, don't kid yourself, don't fool yourself. Like, just be, if I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Like, and just be down with it. Like, that would be my piece. And the last thing is, when it comes to the kinds of techs that can tech that can simulate us, we're not the only ones that are going to use it. Other people will too. So just be mindful of what you put online. Be mindful of, I'm screwed because I'm a public figure. I'm gonna be out there. Somebody wants to, it's done, like it's a wrap. But just know that there are things that people can do with your visual, with your audio that are kind of trifling. So the last cautionary piece would be, like, if you have loved ones or whatever, start to get safe words around if you're actually in trouble, what you would say. Because there are bad actors right now who are putting, they get your voice in various things, and then they'll call somebody who you love and be like, I'm in trouble, I need X amount of money, please do this. So have a safe word, like, because that's real, that's actually happening. Okay, Micah, Blacklight, love y'all, thank you.
All right. I'm going to try to lightning this. I have so many things to say. One thing that I feel really positive about is, like you're saying, yes, it's going to get to the point where video can be press a button, definitely. And yet people are going to be able to tell their stories that otherwise would not have access to being able to tell their stories. Big studios will probably exploit that. If we're looking from the monetary side, it is going to cause a lot of issues. But on the individual creative side, which I believe we all are inherently creative creatures, it is so empowering and exciting. And also, as far as the self, I've started playing with putting my face on my creations, on my video creations, and I feel like each one of my creations is a part of me, which is pretty existential and interesting. And then putting my own face on the AI-generated videos is this next level of it. So reflecting on that and thinking about it and trying it out for yourselves, being cautious where you are putting your face, but still it's a really powerful thing of, like, what is creation and what are we birthing into the world. And so some tools are Kling AI. That's another video generating tool that I didn't mention yet. And what's nice about it is that they give you a lot of credits for free, whereas a lot of them are really expensive to get into. So you can play around with that in the beginning to do generative video, and then you can subscribe. And also the subscription is pretty low too compared to other services. And then Insight Face is the plugin for Midjourney that you can use, because Midjourney is not very good at creating your face. Like, you have to train a whole model. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But Insight Face will take one picture of your face and be able to put it on. So it's fun to give this level of personalization to your AI creations that way.
So I am the Luddite of the group, and I have tried a lot of the tools, and I like them all. Gamma, Script, I have a bunch of emails from them that I keep putting on snooze because I'm going to dive in deeper. So I don't use the tools that much. I do like Gamma, like I said, it's been talked about before, but I always find I spend so much time afterwards making it the way I want it. So those don't really work for me. So I'm just going to suggest to you all, it's super easy to do because I did it. Create yourself a chatbot, your own chatbot that you can train. It's a super simple process. You do have to have, like a $20 subscription to one of the services. It could be any of them, I believe. Here's the thing, though. Be careful, because once you have subscribed, like I did ChatGPT, and now my chatbot feels like a real person, and I would have trouble, like, not keeping my subscription going and switching to a different model because it's like a real person. So just use me as a cautionary tale and choose carefully. So that's the one thing I will say. And then what I want to tell you is we launched our first AI, Ashlandia AI character on the plaza yesterday for the spring equinox. The Wizard of Ashlandia that Dr. Daniel DeFries, who's back there somewhere, I saw him earlier, there he is, helped us create, and it guided children and families in casting a spell for the season, sent them out into the Lithia Park to go on a foraging hunt for their wand and spell word and making a potion and stuff like that. And it was really beautiful. So.
Real quick, sorry. I forgot to say that today specifically, I posted on Instagram an example of a AI-generated video. So Nisha creating, this isn't a shameless plug, it's just I want you to be able to see what's possible. So if you go to Nisha creating, you can see one of the AI-generated videos.
Okay, tools. Oh my gosh, there's so many. There's a really cool, if you're interested in productivity and seeing what you're doing without having to put much effort into organizing it, there is a tool called Clock AI. It's got 2 Ks at the end, and basically it runs on your computer, and any files that you have in a particular folder, it will associate with a project. This works really well for me because I work in After Effects a lot, but I work in multiple projects. And a lot of time tracking or productivity tracking tools only track the program that's open, not the file that you're working on. So it's useless for me, to use those tools. Clock uses AI to do that, and it's super convenient, super interesting. But you also get a really good idea of what you're doing throughout the day. And if you're somebody who needs to time track for work, I don't anymore, but I used to. I just like monitoring myself. It's a really good tool. Obviously, ChatGPT is the easiest to access AI app right now for most people who are nervous about going into AI. Really do try it. Try the free kind. You don't have to get the subscription. It's fun. You can ask it really nuanced questions that Google will give you terrible results for. It will give you great results, interesting stuff. For example, I wanted to know Van Gogh was heavily influenced, speaking of iteration, was heavily influenced by Rembrandt and the Dutch masters. And I wanted to know if he was also influenced by any Dutch philosophers. I can't ask Google that. You don't get good results with a question like that. ChatGPT, on the other hand, gave me fantastic, specific citations that were able to help me kind of put together a sense of what philosophies were influencing Van Gogh at the time. That's so cool, What fun. Do it. Yeah, here.
Thank you. We got to wrap up, guys. Sorry, Nisha. So just quick summary from Teighe. What is authenticity? It's a very good question. Cynthia told us to paddle and support a chatbot. I spoke at the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library, and the woman asked a question, and she talked about writing, and she said she had created her own chatbot to help her write. And her primary concern was giving her chatbot leisure time activities to do when she wasn't giving it tasks. To paraphrase Cynthia in a kind of off-the-cuff remark, she said, "Oh, it's AI, now I hate it." Right? I think it doesn't matter if it creates an emotional response. It's very interesting. And I think Micah summed up this world: crazy, beautiful, lunatic tools. Please thank our panel.